Hey everyone, and happy Friday. Hope everyone's doing well. It's freezing outside. Went outside for a quick second, and yeah, pretty cold. So we're definitely into mid-November weather here in Illinois. So yeah, so we'll see where it goes. Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of us have heard all the news with COVID as far as schools, going to remote, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of anxiety right now. I know me and my wife were last night we're definitely looking at all the social media posts and watching the news, trying to figure out if, here in Muhammad, are our kids going to school get further? Are they going to go back to remote? And know a lot of you and your children are already remote. So kind of, a lot of anxiety right now, with COVID. So, we'll get through this together. So, and that's so for today's post, I was thinking, I was thinking about the anxiety that I was having last night for, COVID in the schools. And I realized there's probably another type of anxiety that's still kind of looming around, and it's the result of the election. Now, I know I said a couple weeks ago I wouldn't do any more election commentary, but this will be the last one. I absolutely promise this time. No more election discussion after today. And really what I wanted to discuss as far as elections go in politics is really just the aftermath, so to speak, because I think half the country could not be more ecstatic right now about the results of the election, and the other half of the country is very sad and very depressed about what happened with the election. And again, both sides very, very understandable things to feel. And then I'm sure there's people in the middle that didn't care one way or the other. And so that's great as well. But I wanted to have a quick discussion about from I'll say a tolerance perspective, or from a trying to not get into an argument with friends and family about politics. A couple of just quick ideas on how we can de-escalate situations so that we're not making politics a divide for us. Because let's be honest, not politics, the election, these things are very political. They bring out a lot of personal feelings for us, and and I think these are all very relevant from a diversity, equity, and inclusion standpoint, is because one of the great things about being at a university is we have diversity of thought. We have diversity of ideas. We have people on the far left of politics, on the far right of politics, and then a ton of people probably somewhere in the middle. And it's important that we really engage this idea of respecting other people's opinions. And for that, and so for that, I thought I'd start off with, I'm wearing my St. Louis Cardinals, sweatshirt today. Obviously, I'm a diehard Cardinals fan, love them to death. And that other team in the north side of Chicago, not as big a fan on. So, but for all you Cubs fans that are listening, or your White Sox fans, or any other team that you root for, I certainly don't think any less of you for cheering for a different team. I certainly have my favorite team. If you're a Cubs fan, White Sox fan, you cheer as loud and hard for your team as possible, because that's your team. At the end of the day, it's okay, because you know what? Why do we get so excited for Cubs Cardinals games? Because they bring out the passion. They bring out the excitement. So as a Cardinals fan, I'm grateful for Cubs fans from the perspective that the rivalry is great. It's fun. It's engaging. And it gives us little things to kid each other about here and there, all in good fun. Well, in politics, can be, obviously it's a little different than sports for obvious reasons, but at the same time, the same feelings apply of mutual respect. I think it's important to remember that you may not respect your family or friends' opinions on politics, but I think it's important to respect the fact that everyone has the right to an opinion. And you have to remember, when we're talking politics and election and your candidate, whoever, there is no right answer. There is not. This is not like 2 + 2 = 4. That 2 + 2 = 4. That is mathematical fact. It cannot be argued. That is a universal certainty. 2 + 2 = 4. Politics are opinions, they're ideas, they're thoughts, and they're subject to interpretation. They're subject to other people having a differing opinion. So you have the right to your opinion no matter what it is, but everyone else has the right to their opinion. And I think we get into problems when we start saying that our opinions are fact. There cannot be an argument with it. That's where we run into issues, and that's where we start to disrespect each other and not show each other the what we should be focusing on, essentially. So if you're in a discussion that is heating up, don't just passively aggressively change the subject, because more often than not, the person's going to see what you're trying to do. So if you're talking about politics and you suddenly go, oh, the weather outside, it's kind of rainy, they're going to probably try to bring you back to politics, But instead, make a conscious decision by saying, look, it's clear we won't be able to see eye to eye on this one. So let's agree to disagree and talk about something else. And I guarantee you there's almost always a topic that you can change it to that will be more peaceful and a little bit more friendly, with sports, music, friends, the holidays, whatever. I think a universal COVID's a great thing to change it to. Is there a single person in this country who's happy that COVID is here? I don't think there is. So that's something that's universal. We can all agree that COVID is a bad thing and we want to get rid of it. So just an idea of a good way to kind of change the topic. And if you already know you don't see eye to eye on a topic, it's okay to say up front, let's make a no politics rule for the next hour or so we can just enjoy lunch together. I talk to friends and family, still pretty regularly, and somehow, everybody knows that I'm pretty set in my political views. And then those who are on the opposite will try to look at me and try to change it and try to throw little things out there. And I'm always like, look, no politics. You know what? 'Cause we're not going to agree. We're just not. You're not going to convince me. I'm not going to convince you. I don't want to spoil our friendship and our fun and who we are and why we relate to each other. So let's talk about something else, plain and simple. And every now and then we do have that person who will not talk about anything else, just insist, just constantly pushes you to engage. So if you find yourself in a situation like that and you can't find a way out, what I suggest is curiosity. Ask, why do you feel that way? Because there's so much more to this fight than what's on the surface level, essentially. So, always ask, I'm curious about why you feel that way, and let that person share their views. And more often than not, once they've shared their views and why they feel that way, then, okay, I appreciate you telling me, then at that point you can move on. And if you want to engage in a conversation, great. I think political conversation is great. It's wonderful. It should be encouraged. Political disagreement and anger and hate, that's when we start running into different issues. So, I kind of think the last thing I'll say on this topic is, it's okay to disagree in things. It's totally fine and indeed normal for us to disagree with things about tax rates, how healthcare should be paid for, abortion, gun rights. These are all, again, very personal, deep topics, but it's normal and fine to have people who disagree with us on our views on that. We should try to look for things that don't really have a middle ground, so to speak. If you have a friend or someone who is truly racist and truly says racial things, or says very sexist things, says very, things against religious bigots, if you will. Things along those lines, I think we can all, with the exception of like actual racists who we probably don't want to associate with, there's not a lot of middle ground for things like racism and hate for other people. So those things, we should encourage. Yeah, I agree with you. We should not be hating. We should discourage racism. We should make sure that these things we try to get rid of. But what tends to happen is when we start with those topics, very quickly they morph into healthcare and abortion and gun rights and religious rights, et cetera, et cetera. Those we're going to disagree on. So look for things that are kind of that we can all agree for. We all hate COVID. We all want to see racism, extinguished. Let's focus on those things that we can universally agree with and discuss those. And those other things, again, if we want to discuss them, great, but do it respectfully, do it, and at the end of the day. I remember, the last thing on politics is, I think the whole country, back in 2016 when Trump was elected, it was a major surprise. A lot of people didn't think he would be elected. And so people on the left were very upset that Trump was elected. And for the last 4 years, a lot of individuals on the left have been very upset for a multitude of reasons. Well, now that that Biden has been elected and the country is likely to shift more to the left, the people that were happy in 2016 are now upset in 2020. So that's the nature of politics. It changes periodically. So, if you were happy with the election result, then, you should be happy. You should be happy. If you were upset, it's very understandable to be upset and start focusing on, okay, let's start transitioning. And then maybe in 2024, my candidate will be elected. So point is, politics is ever shifting. And that's why it creates so much passion. And because, again, people think, oh, it's never going to change. Politics changes all the time. Look, if you look at the history of our country, it bounces to the left and right all the time. Ends up in the middle, goes to the left, it goes to the right. It constantly shifts. That's what politics does. So that being said, don't let politics be the reason that you hate somebody, that you don't talk to them, that you don't make them a friend anymore, that you don't talk to family, because there are a lot of things to worry about in life. Politics is something we should all be concerned about, we should follow, we should pay attention to, but it's not a reason to hate somebody, and it's certainly not a reason to exclude yourself from other people. So that being said, I will never talk about politics, at least for a while anyway. We'll focus more on specific DEI topics as we move forward. But again, with the election just happening, I felt it was important to be able to address this issue so that you can continue to have good conversations with friends and family and not let things get in your way. So that being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I'm moving this weekend to a brand new house. I'm really excited. So I finally get to this. I have some great positivity in my life, even though COVID's ravaging everything. So again, trying to focus on the positive things. So Hope everyone has a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.